we have planned a little gimmick that we talked about last week where we are going to rank the best player on each prospective playoff team, including the play-in teams, the second best player on each of those teams, and the third best player on each of those teams. So we have compiled, first of all, we had to come up with a list of who were the three top players in our opinion on each team, and then talk about how to rank each of those players from said playoff team. So we're going to get into that in a second, but Jay, where are we starting here tonight?
Mike Malone getting fired with 3 games left in the season, Mike? What is going on? This is a sideshow. Okay, so understand that Steve Kerr is the only coach of the team in the 2020s that has won a championship that is still the coach. Right?
Joe Mazzulla.
Oh, yeah. But I'm saying from 2020 to 2023. Yeah. So Vogel out. Malone out. And who's the last one?
Budenholzer.
Budenholzer out. And Budenholzer is going to be out again.
He might be out again very soon. I'm surprised he survived this long.
But so listen, it's just crazy. This is just nonsense. I understand maybe that things have not been going great, but I mean they're still 4th in the West. It's almost the Memphis thing all over again. It's very similar, right? It's even crazier when you think about it because it's so late in the season. And this team, by the way, has probably, in my opinion, the guy who should be the MVP. He won't win the MVP because of politics, but the guy who should be the MVP. Okay, sorry SGA, I'm not giving it to you. I wouldn't vote if I had an NBA vote. I would not give it to you. I would give it to Jokic. Okay, for MVP, the guy who is MVP, and there you can't seriously say that you would count them out in any real series. I mean, we until 2 weeks ago probably still included them in a legitimate chance to win the championship. And I'm not saying they might still have a legitimate chance to win it because the West is, listen, this whole bottleneck in the West and everything, who knows where it's all going to shake out, it's crazy. It's just nuts. And I just don't understand what's going on here. Like these guys getting fired. And then there's these other team coaches who are a disaster are keeping their teams. It just doesn't make any sense to me, Mike. It just doesn't.
Well, the Nuggets piece of this. So first the news breaks that Mike Malone is getting fired. And clearly the timing, we can rehash the entire Taylor Jenkins, Memphis Grizzlies conversation here in that I'm not sure how this makes any sense when 2 years ago, Mike Malone led the Denver Nuggets to an NBA championship. And so it would seem that regardless of whether or not you agree with how Mike Malone is coaching this team, that at some point, what Mike Malone did with essentially at least 4 of the same 5 starters, and you've penciled in Christian Brown for KCP, but clearly at some point, Mike Malone's coaching acumen was good enough to lead the Denver Nuggets to an NBA title. To change that out seemingly made no sense, but everything that we had heard about the Denver Nuggets over the last 2 years had been that the front office led by Calvin Booth wanted Mike Malone to play some of the younger guys, your Julian Strothers, your Perry Watson. What's the guy's name? I always get his name wrong.
Perry Brown?
No. I always want to call him Perry Watson, but I know that's not his name.
That's Earl Watson.
Peyton Watson. No, Peyton Watson. Peyton Watson. I always want to call him Perry Watson. I have no idea why. Anyway, there was always this disconnect, it seemed, between Calvin Booth as the GM and Michael Malone, who is known for not wanting to play young guys, kind of the new age Larry Brown, who had that reputation back in the day. And so you say, okay, this season hasn't gone exactly the way that the Nuggets had hoped. The young guys weren't getting very many minutes, and the Denver bench has been the problem probably throughout the regular season, in addition to Jamal Murray's slow start and then injuries, which currently he's out with hamstring, whatever, inflammation.
Someone
Who knows how long?
Someone speculated, I saw on Twitter, that Mike Malone really got fired because he let it be known that Jamal Murray might not be back for the playoffs. And I was like if that's why you're firing a guy, come on now.
It's a dumb reason to fire someone. So anyway, my first thought when I see that is that the disconnect between the front office and Michael Malone had finally gotten to the point where Calvin Booth, as the GM, couldn't take it anymore and decided to fire Michael Malone. And then, like an hour later, you find out that not only is Michael Malone fired, but Calvin Booth, as the GM, has also been fired.
Did Calvin Booth get fired? Or I think they got fired at the same time. Like, I don't think this was Malone's fired.
But I think it broke. But it broke first that Michael Malone was fired, right? Whether or not it happened simultaneously, I don't know. I'm just saying that in the context of the news cycle, Michael Malone gets fired first, and so your first thought is there's a disconnect between him and Calvin Booth. Malone wanted veteran players, didn't want to play the young guys. Calvin Booth drafted those young guys, wanted those young guys to play more minutes, and that disconnect is what caused Michael Malone to be fired. That was my initial thought. Still makes no sense that a guy who won you a championship 2 years ago with essentially the same key pieces is not the guy to lead you into the playoffs. Made no sense in the moment. And then, like an hour later, you find out that Calvin Booth has been fired, and now you're just looking at it saying this whole organization basically is in disarray. What does that say about the Nuggets' chances to, as you said, contend for a title, which we, as recently as probably last week, we were still thinking that simply because of Jokic and the championship pedigree of what the four guys on that roster who were there for the title, what those guys stand for or what they're all about, you still, I think, had to take them seriously. At this point, I have no idea what direction this thing is going to take. I have no idea who's in charge of Stan Kroenke, the owner of the Nuggets, now running basketball operations. I don't know. Obviously, they named, what's his name, David Adelman, the interim coach.
Is that Rick Adelman's son?
Rick Adelman's son. So a guy with an NBA pedigree. And who knows? I mean, we have no idea what his relationship is with any of the players or what it looks like for him potentially long term. All I know is that we can rehash the same thing that we said with Taylor Jenkins and the Grizzlies. There's no way that in the short term that this move makes any sense as far as maximizing what Denver can do in the playoffs this year, because you're not going to have time to install anything or do anything new. It's not like you have a training camp. Maybe if you're out of the play-in, you have a week between when the regular season ends and you open a playoff series. That's awful ambitious to go in and totally revamp what you're doing. And besides, I don't know how much you want to revamp what the Nuggets are doing, where you have a Nikola Jokic-centered offense that basically everything runs through him. Seems like the pretty good basis for a great offense in the NBA. And I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. I don't really get why or what may have happened behind the scenes. It's very rare that you see a coach and GM fired at the same time, especially when those two positions were at odds in the organization, right? Maybe if they were both in lockstep and things were going bad, you say, okay, we get rid of the coach and GM because these two guys are kind of joined at the hip. This was almost the exact opposite. So maybe there was so much dysfunction behind the scenes that ownership felt like it was untenable moving forward. But it still feels like when you have the best player on the planet and you have a team that is comprised of guys who won you an NBA title as recently as 2 years ago, to upend the apple cart with 3 games to go, I don't know what purpose you're serving that you couldn't have served that same purpose a month from now, a month and a half from now, after you see how the playoffs play out. Memphis is a little bit different, right? Because they don't have the same history of success that the Nuggets have. So most people, I think, are anticipating that Memphis is going to go out in the first round. Certainly nobody's taking Memphis seriously as an NBA title contender and never has throughout the season. So if they're thinking we're going to go another direction in a month, then okay, maybe I get it. But with Denver, you still had to be thinking that you had a shot at making the NBA Finals with this team, and changing the coach at this point doesn't make any sense. Does Jokic do you think he has any hand in this happening, or is this completely ownership?
I don't know, Mike, but where the betting favorite is he's going to be a Los Angeles Laker next season.
Jokic?
Yeah, baby. The betting favorite right now. Jokic, LeBron, and Luka all on the same team.
How's that going to happen?
Trade everybody else. Reeves, everyone. Jokic, LeBron, and Luka. He's the betting favorite right now. After the trade today, where is Jokic going to be next year? It's more of a favorite that he's going to be a Laker than he's going to be a Nugget.
That's insane, by the way. What sports book is that?
I saw it DraftKings and FanDuel, both of them.
There's no way. I don't see how the Lakers could even potentially pull that off. Plus, look, Austin Reeves is a good player, but the package that you'd have to put together in order to get Jokic onto that team would be, I'm pretty sure, beyond the Lakers' capabilities. But look, nobody ever thought that Luka Doncic was going to fall into their lap either, so nothing will surprise me. It's a crazy move by the Nuggets. Whether or not behind the scenes, it seems like Jokic has been kind of ornery over the last couple weeks with things in general, which tends to happen when you're losing. So maybe there was some agitation on his part. We don't know. Maybe there was some conflict that he had with Michael Malone that we're not aware of. Michael Malone doesn't seem like necessarily always the easiest guy to get along with. And yet at the same time, I think back to when we were discussing the MVP award 3 weeks ago, and Michael Malone had the quote of basically, if you just laid out the statistics of SGA and Jokic, that there's no question that Jokic is the MVP. And he was pretty passionate in that particular press conference advocating for Jokic to be the MVP. So it seems hard to believe that there was that much of a fissure that developed over the last couple weeks between these two guys.
Fancy word, Mike. That was
you
a
like
fancy
that word?
word.
That
you
was
spell it?
Fissure, I believe.
You, man. You are
I'm a good speller.
Highbrow, baby. Highbrow.
I'm a good speller. Anyway, so I don't know. It doesn't make any sense on any level to me from the outside, but things often look different from the inside. I just don't see how it's a positive for Denver in the short term.
Yeah. All right, so we get to our gimmick now, Mike.
Let's get to it, man. Let's roll.
All right, so Mike and I, so what we did was I took the Eastern Conference teams and I ranked my players 1 through 3. Mike took his Western Conference players from each team and ranked them 1 through 3. And then after we did that, we took each team, put them, each player in the first column, put them in a column and ranked them, so on and so forth. And we gave them points, and then we added up the points. This is not contrived at all. This is really not hard to follow. And we're just, I guess, I don't know how you want, do you want to go do we want to go through each team, or do we want to go through, do you want to start with your lowest team and I start with my lowest team and then we compare them, Mike? Does that make sense? Or how do you want to do this, Mike?
Here's what I want to do. At least I think we jump around and do it in different ways just to get us to different places. Because as you said before the podcast, I don't know that we want to spend 5 minutes on the 60 different guys on our list. So I think what will be kind of instructive is to kind of jump around to different places in the list and then also look at teams. So let's start with give me your number one guy on each one of the lists. So the number one first guy on a
Jokic,
team. The
ironically. I made this list before. I did this list before the Mike Malone firing, but I have Jokic as my number one.
Okay, I have Jokic as my number one too. Does the Michael Malone firing in any way change your thought process?
No.
It doesn't for me either. Still the most impactful guy that you would want to have. If you could pick anybody, he would be your guy. All right. In the number 2 column, who's your number one guy in the number 2?
It's LeBron. Come on now.
It's LeBron. I have the same thing. So far, our lists concur. In the third banana, who is your number one third? Who's your number one third banana?
I went with Austin Reeves.
Austin Reeves is my number 2. Who's your number 2?
My number 2, I have Porzingis.
I have Darius, number 1.
Wow. Garland's 3 for me.
Okay, so here's my reason behind Garland. I think Reeves is right there. I could have easily picked Reeves. I think what he's
out of curiosity, where do you have Luka in the first column, Mike?
I have him at number 5.
Okay, so are the Lakers your lowest point total?
The Lakers are an 8, and they are the lowest point total. Yes, which means they have
theoretically 5 for me, Mike, because I have Luka at 3. So I have LeBron and Reeves at 1, and I have Luka at 3. So I had them at 5, which is why when I was doing this with you live, I was like, "Oh man, you're gonna laugh at who my lowest point total is." But then you have the same exact thing.
I have the exact same thing. Not quite as low as you, but low. However, right, that leads to the next discussion, which is, I guess, somewhat unrelated to our lists. But there's a reason why the Lakers are not the favorite in the NBA playoffs.
Are you saying they're top heavy, Mike? Are you saying
they're very, very top heavy, very top heavy, and the rest of their roster, clearly they have no quality size, and then you're looking at guys who are just the rest of that roster is not great. Plus, I think the other problem that you have with their big 3 is LeBron can still maybe turn it on defensively for a possession, a half a quarter, maybe a quarter. I don't know that LeBron has many 42 minutes of two-way superstardom left in him. So I think for me, at least, both of these or all these lists tended to skew offense, at least to some degree, which I think is why when you look at the Lakers that you have them finishing as the team with the lowest point total and hence the best
Who do you have
big
as
3.
Who do you have as 2 in that second column, Mike? Mobley?
I have Jimmy Butler.
Oh, I have Mobley.
So give me the reasoning for Mobley over Butler, and then I'll give you the reason for Butler over everybody else in that list.
Well, I mean, I guess I have Butler way lower than that, and that's just because I don't trust him. Like I know he's been doing well since he went to Golden State, and he's seemingly bought in, and everyone's talking about. But I'm just waiting for the Jimmy Butler explosion to happen. So that's kind of why I had him all the way down at 6, Mike.
Okay, well, so here's the thing. So if I look at Jimmy Butler and I look at Evan Mobley and I look at the playoff track record of those two guys, at least when Butler is happy, and Butler has only been in Golden State for, 25 games? And when he got there, he signed a contract extension. So for whatever the honeymoon period is worth for Jimmy Butler, I feel like the honeymoon period is going to last at least through this playoff run. And we all know how this movie is going to end in Golden State with Jimmy Butler. It's not going to end well, but it's going in the direction that Jimmy Butler has gone with almost every team that he's been on. When he first gets there, he tends to make a big difference. And playoff Jimmy got the Miami Heat to at least the Eastern Conference Finals 4 years out of 5 and brought them from a play-in spot to the NBA Finals against the Nuggets in 2023. And so I just feel like the track record of a happy Jimmy Butler who's engaged warranted him being at the top of the list. So that's why I put Jimmy Butler at number 2 on the second banana list.
Okay, so I guess my next question. So we both agree Lakers is the lowest total, right?
Yes. Yes.
What was your next lowest team? Celtics?
My next lowest team was the Cavs because I had Garland rated higher than you.
Okay. I had the Celtics.
All right, so let's go Cavs and Celtics. So let's take the Celtics first. Give me your rankings for the 3 Celtics guys.
Okay, so I had Tatum at 4.
Okay.
I had Brown at 3. Oh wait, did I do this wrong? Did I? Yeah. Tatum at 4, Brown at 3, and then I had Porzingis at 2. So that got me to 9.
Okay, so I had Tatum at 6. I had Jaylen Brown at 5, and that was a hard one for me because I went through, and as I did it initially, I was like, Jaylen Brown, I can't have him above the guys that were above him. So above him on the second banana list, I had LeBron 1, Jimmy Butler 2, Jamal Murray 3, and Evan Mobley 4. Now, you can argue with me about Murray, but the reality is playoff Murray in the year when they went to the finals and won it, and then think back to how well he played in the bubble with the back and forth series with Donovan Mitchell. Murray, when he's been at his best, has been right there at the top. So I went with the best version of Jamal Murray. You could argue that the Jamal Murray that we've seen in the last calendar year probably doesn't belong anywhere near the top 5, but I went with his ceiling. So I put Jaylen Brown at 5, but then I started going back and thinking about it. I'm like, this guy won. So I'm dinging Tatum on the one hand, right, for not winning the Eastern Conference Finals MVP and then not winning the Finals MVP last year.
Reward Jaylen Brown for it.
But I didn't reward Jaylen Brown, on the other hand, for saying that, man, for a second banana, this is a guy who was the MVP of the NBA Finals. Maybe he should be higher. So I guess maybe my bias towards the Celtics comes out in how I rank those two. But I had Brown at number 5, and then I had Porzingis at 6, just because, and this is me going against my own logic again, right? So Murray, I'm not necessarily holding a grudge against him for the injuries and inability to stay on the floor and be at his best. Whereas with Porzingis, I feel like maybe I am holding that against him because I don't know what I'm going to get from Kristaps Porzingis. Is he going to be available? Last year, he was barely available throughout the entire Celtics playoff run. And I know he's been healthy now, but he had the weird virus, and it seems like he can't stay on the court for more than 2 weeks before something crops up and is bugging him. So that's why I had Porzingis down at number 6, because really he made some contributions to the Celtics championship run last year, but would they have been able to win it without him? Probably, because they were getting through the East, which they basically did without him. And then he had the one big quarter against the Mavericks in the finals, and I think they could have won without him. So that's why I had Porzingis maybe down a little bit lower than you. So I had the Celtics as my 3rd team, and then I had the Cavs. Let's talk about them. I had Mitchell at 7.
That's right, Mitchell.
I had Mobley at 4, and then I had Garland at 1. So the Cavs had a 12. So they were second behind the Lakers in my rankings.
So our score, the Cavs, I had 12 as well. So we were tied at 4. I just had the Celtics at 9. So
okay, all right. So that makes sense.
Can we look at the opposite side of the spectrum for a minute?
Sure.
What was your highest team, Mike?
My highest team was, let's see, I had a couple teams in the 40s. So let me just double check.
I got a team.
I had a couple. Oh, sorry. I had 3 teams in the 50s too. I'm just looking at it. So my worst team was the Atlanta Hawks with a score of 55.
I had Chicago at 56.
Okay. I had the Bulls at 51. and then I had the
So wait,
Pistons, and then I had the Pistons at 50.
So like I had Kobe White in last place in the first column.
Okay, I had him 19th. I had him second last. I had
Who'd you have?
I had Şengün I had Şengün at 20.
Yeah. Okay.
Where'd you have Şengün? Where'd you have Şengün?
16.
Okay. All right.
And then I had Vucevic at 20.
I had Vucevic at 20. So where'd you put Giddey?
Oh, 16, baby.
All right, I had Giddey at 12. And so Giddey was a tough one for me because part of me wanted to rank him higher because I feel like he's had a good year. And if I just look at the guys on this list, Giddey's pretty productive compared to some of the guys at the back end of the third banana list. But then you think back to last year in the playoffs where when he was still in Oklahoma City, basically he was almost unplayable because of his inability to shoot the ball and space the floor for the Thunder. I do think that he shot the ball better this year, and obviously he's in a bigger role and he's getting a chance to have the ball in his hands and do more of the things that he's good at. But that was kind of a tough one for me. That's why he kind of ended up in the middle. So I had him at 12 on that list, which is probably why you had him a little lower, which is why the Bulls ended up lower for you. But I had the Hawks. Where'd you have Trey at in the first column?
I had Trey at 18.
I had him at 17. So we're kind of in the same ballpark there.
And I lied. I did not, when I was doing my totals, for some reason I didn't add up my Atlanta. I think Atlanta has a higher number. Hold on. 18 plus 19 plus 19. Oh, they also got 56, Mike. They got the same.
Okay.
All right. So I had Trey at 18. I had Dyson Daniels at 19. And I had Risa Shea at 19.
All right. I had Risa Shea at 20. I had Daniels at 18. And I had Trey at 17.
I had KCP at 20 just because the fact that I had to put him on this list. He was when I did the Orlando and he was the third best player, I wanted to pound my head against the wall. So
2-time NBA champion though, KCP. So
yeah.
You didn't give him any credit for that?
His wife bets against him or something. I don't know. Did you see?
I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about, but all I'm going to say is he did win championships and was an important part of the Lakers title. No, but look, I get it. And KCP hasn't been great this year, but compared to some of the guys that are behind him, I don't know. He at least has a resume of coming through as a role player. Maybe it's just because he'd be better suited as a fourth or fifth option, which I guess makes sense. But I gave him a little credit for having a championship pedigree and moved him up a little bit as a result of that. So I had KCP.
It's not a surprise to us, right, Mike, that like the teams that the lower teams are the teams with the highest score are the teams in the East that are not
correct. Absolutely.
So it's not really a surprise to us.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I mean, the bottom teams we're looking at. For me in the 50s, I had Hawks, Bulls, Pistons in the 50s. And then in the 40s, I had the Heat, the Magic in the East. And then in the West.
I had the Magic in 50s, Mike. I had
50s.
40s. Yeah.
Really? Yeah. All right. Well, let's look at those two teams. All right,
it's thrown off because I have KCP in 20th, Mike.
I only had him 15, so it's not like it's not that.
Well, that would get me into the 40s. That would get me to 48. Like if I dropped into 15, that would have get me into the 40s.
I got the Magic at 42. So give me the Magic. Give me your rankings for these guys. Where's Paolo?
I have Paolo at 17.
I have him at 16, so we're right in the same ballpark.
Franz, I have him at 16.
All right, Franz, I had a little higher. I know he was bad in the playoffs last year, but again, I just don't. I feel like
I had some bias going to that.
Okay, all right. I had Franz at 11. That may be too high as I look at my list. But I just don't love.
Wait. Who do you have him ahead of?
Okay, who do I have him ahead of?
Yeah.
So I have Vucci Main at 20.
Okay.
I got Beasley at 19. Dyson Daniels at 18.
Okay.
PJ Washington.
Okay.
Julius Randle.
Oh, come on.
You'd rather have Julius Randle than Franz in a playoff game? Julius Randle's been horrendous in the playoffs, man. Horrendous. Horrendous.
So is Franz.
Franz is younger. He's only been in one play. He's been in one playoff series and he was bad.
Okay.
So I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. Jalen Green, inconsistent. Zach LaVine only plays one end of the floor. And then Bam and Jalen Williams I have behind him just because Bam, I think offensively, especially this year, he's been below average for him. And Jalen Williams from the Thunder, when I look at these lists and I think about the Thunder, they're the opposite of the Lakers, right? They have one guy at the top, and then they've got a bunch of guys
where'd you have SGA at?
I had him at 3.
I had him at 2.
So who'd you have at 3?
Luka.
Who'd you have at 4?
Tatum.
Who'd you have at 5?
Steph.
Who'd you have at 6?
Kawhi.
Oh my God. Who'd you have at 7?
Donovan Mitchell.
Who'd you have at 8?
Giannis, baby.
Oh, 8?
He's injured. He's going to get hurt in the first round.
You're
of the playoffs,
insane.
Mike. He's going to get
You are
hurt.
insane.
He's going
8?
to He's going to get hurt in the first round of the
Okay.
playoffs. Book it right here.
You do remember that Giannis put up a 50 ball in a clinching game in the NBA Finals, right?
Book it. He's going to get injured in the first round, Mike. Book it. His back's going to get hurt.
You're now predicting injury for guys. I understand.
Book it. Someone's gonna clip him like they clipped that poor Memphis Grizzly guy dunking. Did you see that video I sent you?
I did not.
Go look at it real quick. Go look at it. I need your reaction to this defense that was played on this play, Mike.
Okay.
The guy had to be. I'll just watch it and I'll tell you. You don't need to watch. There's like.
All right, Brick Center. This post has been deleted.
Oh, I bet you they took it down. The guy broke his wrist. He got clipped. Oh man, he got clipped and landed on his head. They had to stretcher him off.
It's not good.
It was like a 10-minute thing. I don't know what the defense. Anyways, when yeah, it was bad. Anyways, listen, I'm sorry. I just don't believe in Giannis being healthy for the playoffs anymore.
Okay.
You tell me.
Can I read Giannis's stats in the last 10 games? Can I just read you his stats in the last 10
Go
games?
ahead. None of these account for the injury he's going to receive in the first
Now,
round.
keep in mind. I want you to keep in mind he scored 50 in a clinching game in the NBA Finals. Just keep that in mind as I read these stats.
He's not getting to the NBA Finals, Mike, this year. Just
through no fault of his own, I will say. He in his last 10 games, shooting 63% from the floor.
Not as good as Jared Allen. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. 11 rebounds, 8 assists, 32.5 points a game.
Okay. Well, has to do it now. He also has to do it now.
Look,
right?
all these guys on this list have to do it. All these guys have to do it. My thing with Giannis is that there's a proven track record. And look, his team is not very good. Is he going to get the Bucks to the NBA Finals? No, he's not. Are all the guys probably on the list that you have above him more likely to lead their team to the finals? Yes, but I would argue that that's not as a result of their individual brilliance alone. It is a result of a better roster around them. Giannis has been dealt a terrible roster. And yeah, Milwaukee, maybe they win a series. Be stunned if they win more than one. But whoever gets to play Giannis in the first round or the second round is not going to have any fun dealing with this guy. And if you could just take and move him around onto
Indy's
different
beating them in the first round of the playoffs, Mike. Book it.
teams onto different rosters.
Book it. Indiana's winning this first round series against them. Book it.
All right. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that I would, given a guy that I could put on my team to start a playoff team for this year, Giannis would be my number 2 pick. So that's why I have him there.
He's my number
So,
8 pick because he's gonna get hurt in the first round.
Man, that's rough.
He's gonna be chasing down Tyrese Halliburton. It's Mr. Speedy McSpeederson, and he's gonna get hurt.
All right, but what number did you have, Kawhi?
6.
Okay, so you're telling me that Giannis has a better chance of being injured and unavailable than Kawhi does?
Yes.
Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm going to leave it there. We'll let this logic pass us by and move on to another.
Let's move on to Kawhi's, your favorite player that is on Kawhi's team. Where did you have Harden in the third bananas, Mike?
So the third bananas of James Harden, I tried to look at it and say if I wasn't biased against James Harden, where would he be? And I kept just staring at Harden's name, and I kept staring at his statistics, and I kept staring at just how important he is to what the Clippers do and how good that the Clippers have played and how much they have exceeded expectations this year. And now Harden has not nearly been the efficiency darling that he was during his heyday, and his shooting percentages, he's down in, I think, the low 40s overall, and he's down, I think, below 34 maybe for threes. But he still has been the guy that has –
still haven't given me a number, Mike. You still haven't given me a number yet.
11.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, look at the guys behind him. So
I have him at 5, Mike.
5. Okay. So look, you could make an argument. I'm honestly not going to argue with you, because as I was staring at where to put him, I probably could have put him higher. He probably deserves to be higher. As a third banana, he's probably a pretty good option for your team. I just don't trust him in any way, shape, or form. If you're getting, what's Kawhi on your list again? 6?
Yeah.
If you're getting the 6th best number 1 option, Kawhi, and you're also getting a pretty good version of James Harden as your number 3, I mean, maybe, right? Norm Powell has had a great year. Where'd you have Norm Powell? I had Powell at 9.
I had him at 6.
Which honestly feels higher, because I'm not sure what my favorite Norm Powell playoff moment is. Whereas you look at some of these other guys, and I can think of either good or bad things that they've done in the playoffs for a lot of them. Whereas I don't know that I have any real recollection of anything that Norman Powell has done in a playoff series. But he's averaged 24 a game this year, and he's been really, really good. So I think Harden, I probably have him too low. I don't know. He's a very productive player in the regular season. So if you're basing it on what he does in the regular season, for me, Harden's way too low. For you, he might even be too low at 5. But if I base it on his track record in the playoffs, honestly, he's probably a 20. When you think about, are you going to depend on this guy? If you need him to come through for you.
You're putting him at 20? You're putting him behind Kuzma? He's putting him, come on, Mike. Come on. Kuzma doesn't even know what sport.
But here's what I'm saying. Here's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that his production is going to be at a 20 compared to some of these other guys. But what I am saying is that if you are depending upon James Harden to come through and equal or surpass in each and every game what he has done as a regular season performer for your team, the track record tells you that he's not going to be able to do that. Now, if you take away the expectations and just say, what is Harden going to produce on a raw level? Maybe. If you're not counting on him, maybe. But compared to the expectations of what you would expect from a guy with Harden's pedigree in the regular season and with the statistics that he's put up year after year after year. And like I said, his shooting and efficiency is down this year, but he's still been the guy who's basically run the Clippers offense. I just don't trust it to be anywhere near the same as a playoff performer. I just don't. So that's why, look, I could have put Harden, like I said, based on expectation versus reality, I could have put him at 20, but his production made me feel guilty about doing that. So there's no way I could have had him at 5, but I ended up slotting him in at 11.
Okay.
Your bottom guy, who's your bottom 2 in each list?
I already told you. So my bottom 2 in the first list, Kobe White was 20, Tyler Hero was 19.
Okay. So I had Hero at 18, Kobe White at 19, and then I had Şengün at 20. You said you had Şengün at 16?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. And then in the middle list, I had Vucevic 20 and Dyson Daniels at 19.
Okay, so I had Dyson Daniels at 18. I had Malik Beasley at 19, and I had Vooch at 20.
I had Beasley at 17, so I was right there.
Yeah.
And then I had KCP at 20 and Risache at 19.
So I had Risache at 20. I had your boy Kuz at 19, and I had Tobias Harris. I was looking at it. I thought I said Tyler Hero. I'm like, no, Hero's got to be in the first one. I had Tobias Harris at number 18.
Well,
steady veteran presence,
18,
Tobias.
Yeah.
Steady veteran presence, Tobias Harris at number 18.
Yeah.
All right, let me look and.
What was your OKC total, Mike?
22.
I had him at 28.
So I had SGA at 3, and going back to our Giannis conversation, I just felt like Giannis has been a guy who has proven multiple times in the playoffs to be someone that you don't want to deal with. Whereas SGA has played in, I guess he played in a playoff series or 2 when he was with the Clippers, but when he was in a completely different role. And then 2 playoff series last year with the Thunder, where he was very good, don't get me wrong, but the track record isn't nearly as long as some of these other guys on that list. And I just felt like Giannis had to be above him. So that's why I had SGA at 3. And then Jalen Williams, to me, I think if I look at anything that would say to me that Oklahoma City is not going to win the title or not going to get to the Western Conference or not going to get to the NBA Finals, I think Jalen Williams is at number 2 is the guy that's going to, I don't know if hold them back is the right word, but I just don't know if he's good enough in that role or dynamic enough in that role to be able to take the reins when SGA is out of the game or just as being bottled up to whatever degree you can bottle up a guy that is as good as SGA. So I'm not a believer in Jalen Williams. Then I had Chet. I debated with him back and forth. He's been out a lot of the season. I think potentially Chet's probably, if kind of like we've been saying about Evan Mobley, right? That if Chet Holmgren probably not ever is going to be the best player on your team, but Holmgren's got to be their second best player. And I don't think he's there yet. I had Chet at number 7 in the third banana list.
I had Chet at 12.
And that's fair. I don't think you can.
Williams at 14.
So we kind of have the same thought process, I think, with the Thunder. And the Thunder is kind of the exact opposite of the Lakers, where the Lakers very top heavy and very offensive oriented. All 3 of those guys for the Lakers at the top definitely skew offense first, defense second, maybe defense third. I don't know how you want to look at it. But then the Thunder, you have SGA as arguably probably the best scorer in the league this year in terms of different ways to be able to score the basketball. And then Jay Will, Chet, and then the rest of the roster. Clearly, the Thunder is built more around having a suffocating defense as opposed to an unbelievable offense. And so I guess there'll be a test case for defense wins championships. So in this ranking, they got dinged a little bit because offensively, I don't think Jalen Williams and Chet are at the same level as some of these other teams that we have higher because, again, our rankings, I think, skew offense first. So.
All right. And any other teams you want to specifically talk about, Mike?
Where'd you have Michael Porter Jr.? I'm curious.
He's third banana, right?
Third banana.
I had him at 10.
That's what I had him at, 10. He was a hard one for me to figure out because a guy who's won a championship, he wasn't terrible in that series, but he wasn't good in that series. He's averaging 18 a game this year. I feel like you kind of know what you're going to get from him, but I also feel like I would always kind of want more from him. I still go back to my comment about him like 5 years ago that he doesn't look like he even knows how to pass. And I don't mean knows who to pass to. I mean, like physically, sometimes when he passed the ball, it didn't even look like he had ever thrown a pass before. So you know what you're getting from him. He's just an elite shooter at 6'11", and feels like he's been pretty consistent this season, maybe more so than he has in the past. And obviously he's been healthy, which has been a key for him. So I had a hard time figuring out. Part of me felt like, again, championship equity, maybe he should be higher. But then I just looked at the versatility of some of the guys ahead of him, and I couldn't justify moving him any higher. And then you go behind him, and either they're guys that are old or guys that aren't very good or whatever the case may be. And so that's why he ended up for me at number 10.
Fair enough.
Looking at my list.
I struggled with him too because you never know what you're going to get with him. So
correct. All right, where'd you put my boy Karl Anthony Towns?
Fourth.
Okay, so here's another one where my Towns bias came out. I had Towns at 10.
I mean, you can make that argument. I mean, I thought that the season he's had this year, that, you know, I felt like he deserved it. And that's why I put him there. The only three people ahead of him are LeBron, Mobley, and Brown for me.
He had a great season, but I still think that when you look at that trade for the Knicks, and that's not to say that Randall would be much different than Towns in terms of where the Knicks would be in the standings, in terms of what you're going to get. And I've already said that Randall's playoff performances have not been good, to say the least. So I'm not sure that there's an upgrade there. What kills me about the trade for Towns for the Knicks is just that you've locked yourself into Karl Anthony Towns and whatever $60+ million a year for the next 3 or 4 years. And you kind of have settled on that this team is your team. And I don't think this Knicks team, even fully formed, fully healthy, they're not better than the Cavs. They're not better than the Celtics. And both the Cavs and Celtics are relatively young. Now, maybe payroll and CBA constraints end up breaking up those two teams at some point. But I just don't think that I would have gone all in for Karl Anthony Towns if I was the Knicks. I don't trust Towns. I just don't trust him as a playoff performer. So that's why I had him lower. His talent and his season, he's probably going to make one of the All-NBA teams. And for me to have him 10th as a second banana is probably disrespectful to the type of season that he's had. But he just doesn't strike me as a guy who's a winning player. I don't think he makes winning plays in big moments. And his lack of defense has sort of changed the character of the New York Knicks, where as in the past, thinking back to that Cavs-Knicks playoff series 2 years ago, where it just felt like the Knicks pounded the Cavs into submission physically. I don't feel in any way, shape, or form afraid of the Knicks in that same way, because I feel like that physicality is gone. The defense that they had 2 years ago, even last year, is non-existent. Now, their offense is better, but I don't think their offense is better than the Cavs offense or better than the Celtics offense. And their defense is demonstrably worse. And when Towns is on the floor, teams can just attack the rim at all times because he's just not a deterrent there. So that's why I had Towns down a little lower than probably he, again, his season on its face probably deserves for him to be higher. How about, let's see, where'd you have Amen Thompson in the third banana list?
I struggled, Mike, with him. I had him at 9.
Okay, I had him at 5. And the reason why is just I felt like he's sort of that Swiss Army knife type guy, and his defense and rebounding and physical ability, I feel like, are things that are going to translate to playoff basketball. His offense comes and goes, but as we talked about this list being skewed offense, I think this was a case where I skewed a little bit defensively and just thought that what he could do to disrupt other teams was huge. And I just think he's going to continue to get better. And I don't know what to make of Houston as a team, because offensively, clearly I had Şengün at number 20, and then I had Jalen Green at 15. Those are your two best offensive players and best options. I think that other playoff teams are going to have much better options than those two guys. But Houston just is super physical and athletic, and they're a different sort of team than almost every other team that they're going to play against. And I know that they may not get to the NBA Finals, but whoever they play in round one, whether they win or lose, is going to get beat up a little bit by playing against Houston. I think back to the 2 games the Cavs lost to them in the middle of the season, and Houston just really physically beat the Cavs up in a lot of ways. And that's, I've said it before throughout the time we've been doing the pod this season, that physical nature of a team is what scares me for the Cavs. I'm not sure there's a team in the East necessarily that fits that bill that's going to beat up the Cavs. I think Giannis can beat up the Cavs. I don't think he can help the Bucks beat the Cleveland Cavaliers, because I don't think he has enough around them. But that's not a matchup that I would look forward to for the Cavs. I think Giannis would have a huge series against the Cavaliers, but there's no team in the East that I fear from that physical standpoint. Whereas if you were out West, the Rockets would be a team I'd be worried about. I would not want the Cavaliers to play against the Rockets in a playoff series. Not that they couldn't beat them, but I think that those type of physical teams are ones that give the Cavs trouble.
Sacramento too.
Sacramento, theoretically, right? I mean, Sabonis is physical, but he shouldn't be. He shouldn't. The Cavs should have never lost that game. You and I talked about it off air and some of the issues that they had. And obviously, Levine went crazy from 3. But I don't know. I mean, where'd you have DeRozan?
14.
That's what I had him at, 14. So I think offensively, right, very, very good. Defensively, maybe not so much. Where'd you have Levine?
11.
All right, I'm at 14, so same sort of range. Again, 2 guys who skew mostly offense. And then their third guy, Sabonis, same thing, right? Skews mostly offense. I had Sabonis at 9. I struggle with him because you look at his statistical profile and you're like, God, this guy is awesome. And he is awesome in the context of what he does for Sacramento, but I'm not sure that because of his liabilities as a rim protector on defense and because of his liabilities as a shooter, I just think as a playoff guy, he's not nearly as effective. Yeah. He's sort of like an innings eater starting pitcher in Major League Baseball, where regular season he's a guy that's going to help you win games, but I'm not sure that in the playoffs there are a lot of matchups are going to be a struggle for Sabonis, and so that's why I had him down. Even though if you look straight just at his productivity, I mean, he should be right there. He should be right there at the top of the third banana list when it comes to offensive productivity and just raw statistics. He puts up big numbers scoring wise and rebounding and assists, and he can be the hub of your offense. Just a matter of is that a good playoff offense?
Anyone else you want to talk about, Mike?
I just want to look at names that people that I thought. Where'd you have Desmond Bane?
15.
I had him at 3.
I don't like him, Mike. He talks too much crap.
So, I mean, I know what you're saying, but like Bane's averaging 19 a game, like 5 assists. He shoots the ball really well, shooting almost 39% from 3. And I just look at his scoring, and I feel like I think he's tough. And I don't know, there's something about him I like. I probably have him too high, but I feel like there's just something. I feel like his shooting, I feel like his toughness. I feel like he's a guy who, in a playoff series, I'm gonna get what I want out of him. He's not gonna shy away from the moment. That's why I had him a little higher. Let me look at who else. Where'd you have Clay?
7.
See, I had Clay at 13 because I just feel like, what's he do anymore? I mean, yeah, he can still shoot it, but what's he contributing on the other end? And I just feel like he's not as impactful of an all-around player as he was clearly during his heyday in Golden State when you had pre-injury and all that stuff. It's understandable at his age, but I had him down at 13. Who else? Who else is interesting? Anybody else in that third banana list that you have a question about?
Where'd you have Tobias Harris?
I had him at 18. He's had a good year for Detroit. I think he's been a valuable piece of what they've been able to do. But as a playoff performer, somebody that if I need to count on Tobias Harris to have a good game when maybe Cade's having an off night, I'm not sure that Tobias Harris has a 35-8 game in him. Whereas I think there are some guys on this list that potentially could have a big 30-plus point game.
KCP you have ahead of him.
I have KCP ahead of him. I have KCP 15. So here's my bottom 5. KCP 15. Wiggins I had at 16. And Wiggins was 3 years ago the second best player on a championship team. Now, that was lightning in a bottle that hadn't happened before and hasn't happened since. But somewhere inside of Andrew Wiggins, there was the second best player on a championship team. But I wasn't buying it, but still I had his pedigree. I had Draymond at number 17. I know, look, offensively, I know what he does in terms of his screening ability and his passing ability and all the things that unlocks what Golden State does. And he's campaigning for his defensive player of the year, which is all fine, but this is probably my Warriors bias. I just need a little bit more offense out of my third guy. That's why I had him down at the bottom. Then I had Tobias Harris, Kuzma, and Reese Shea as my bottom down there.
Okay, fair enough, Mike.
Any
other?
Let me see who else we haven't talked about.
Would you have Brunson? We didn't say anything about Brunson. What did you have Brunson at?
I have Brunson at 10.
Okay, we did. I have Brunson at 10 as well.
Okay, where'd you have AD?
11.
Yeah, me too. I had Brunson, AD, Halliburton.
Our 1 through 20 are on the first list are pretty similar, Mike.
Yeah, Halliburton at 12.
I had Halliburton at 13. I had Ja at 12.
Okay, I had Ja at 15. I dinged Ja just because of the injuries and the fact that
he had a new celebration today, Mike.
Did he?
He threw a grenade.
All right, nice. There you go.
Like, what is an idiot? Like this guy,
so maybe we need to downgrade him even more. Maybe just put him at 20 because he's going to be suspended. Who knows?
Is he just stupid?
Yeah. I don't know. I can't figure it out. Talent wise, he probably should be higher, but I had him at 15. Where'd you have Cade?
15.
I had him at 13. So we're in the same ballpark with everybody. Where'd you have Ant?
I had him right behind Giannis at 9.
Okay, I had him at 8, so we're in the same ballpark. The Giannis one is your most egregious mistake. I'll say that.
Okay, you can say that all you want.
All right. Where'd you have Siakam and Jaren Jackson in the second banana list?
Siakam, I had him at 12, and Jaren Jackson, I had him at 8.
Okay, I had Jaren Jackson at 8. I had Siakam at 7. I think the second banana is the one we probably had the most. Feels like we were off and in different directions on that one, or had some people in different places. Is there anybody else? Where'd you have Mikal Bridges in the third banana?
I had him at 17.
17?
Have you seen his shot?
I had him at 4. Holy cow! That's let me just look. Let's look up Mikal Bridges' stats quick.
I'm just going based on what I don't.
No, look, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not passionately arguing in favor of Mikal Bridges. I'm just curious as to. So Mikal Bridges averaged 18 a game, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, and what was his shooting like? Shot 50% from the floor and 36% from 3. So his shooting's not, and he shot 81% from the line. So his shooting's probably not as bad as maybe the perception of what we felt like his shot looked like certainly at the beginning of the year. And I think it improved as it went along. I think Bridges is probably underutilized to some degree in the Knicks offense, but I just liked that he was a two-way guy. So that was another case where I felt like defensively Bridges maybe gives you a little bit more than some of those other guys that are on the list behind him who are more offensive minded and maybe not as impactful defensively. So, last guy we didn't talk about, Steph. Where's Steph? Where do you have Steph?
Oh, 5. I told you I had him. I had him at 5, and you got mad at me.
I had him at 4. I had him ahead of Luka. I had him ahead of Tatum.
You got you when I said, because I didn't have Giannis yet, and you kept going
Right, because I don't think Steph should be ahead of Giannis, just from an age factor. But I had Steph at 4. I had him ahead of Luka simply because I don't know where Luka's at health wise, and I had him ahead of Tatum because
Luka got ejected tonight, Mike.
Did he? Well, there you go. Luka at his best clearly would be. I have him at number 5, and would you have him at 4? You said, or 3?
3.
A healthy Luka is probably right near trying to push towards the top. He's gotten to, I would say, average rosters, one to a Western Conference Finals, and then last year to the NBA Finals. So we know what he can do when he's right, but whether he's going to be right.
If I would have put Mobley in the 1 spot instead of in the 2 spot ahead of Mitchell, where would you have put Mobley on your list?
That's a good question. All right, let me look at this. If Mobley's my number 1.
That's the last question. That's the last question we asked, Mike.
Okay, that's fine. Whew. Well, okay. I'm just gonna read I don't put him ahead of Jokic. I don't put him ahead of Giannis. I don't put him ahead of SGA. I don't put him not ahead of Steph. Not ahead of Luka. Not ahead of Tatum. Not ahead of Ant. I mean, if he's my number 1 guy that I need to score,
I think he's ahead of Ant.
Ant's averaging like 28 a game, man.
But I'm not talking about offense, Mike. I'm talking about
Ant plays both ends of the floor. It's not like Ant doesn't defend. I mean, he's not as good of a defender or as impactful as Mobley, but Ant's not a turnstile. It's not like he's not a good defensive player, especially when he wants to turn it up. He's probably, when he's at his best and locked in, he's pretty good. He's definitely above average as a defender. I just look at it as if I need Evan Mobley to get me a basket, how far down this list do I have to go before I get to Mobley? I mean, he's got to be down in the teens, I think, for me somewhere.
Okay.
Because I just don't think give Evan Mobley the ball and say, go get me a basket. There's a lot of guys. I'm down in the, I mean, he's down in like the DeRozan, Ja, Paolo. He's in that range somewhere, I think, if he's your number one option. And not because, again, all around impact, both sides of the ball, he ranks pretty high. That's why every podcast and every article that I've read or listened to over the last week that's talked about all NBA, it seems nearly unanimous that Evan Mobley is going to be second team all NBA. So clearly, if you're talking about a guy who's second team all NBA and we're talking about positionless, you're talking about then a guy who's somebody, and most somebody's think that has had one of the 10 best seasons in the league. But if you're talking about First Banana as the hub of your offense and the guy that has to get you a clutch basket or get you a score when you need it, I don't have a ton of confidence in Mobley compared to some of the other guys on this list. That's not to say that he can't get there. The vision for what Mobley can be, I think, is clearer today than it's ever been. And we've gone back and forth on him so many times in terms of what's his ultimate ceiling. And I'm back on the ceiling is super high. I think for me, when it comes to what Evan Mobley can be, the strength is still probably the biggest piece of what he needs in order to be able to become a dynamic offensive force, because it still feels like he can kind of get pushed off his spot and he can't really overpower and bully people. I look at the blueprint for Mobley. The absolute apex ceiling for Evan Mobley is Giannis with a better jump shot. I feel like the skill sets in so many ways are similar, body type similar, at least especially when Giannis first came in the league. Ball handling, Giannis when he first came in wasn't nearly the ball handler that he is now. Mobley's continued to improve that. I think that around the rim, they both are so long and devastating getting to the basket. The difference is Giannis can overpower you, and right now Mobley can't do that. The advantage Mobley has over Giannis, obviously, is the ability to shoot from the outside. So if you could add the inside power that Giannis has and maybe get to 85% of that and combine it with the shooting, it's a pretty good ceiling. Like the guys on group chat talked about Evan Mobley being in the MVP discussion sooner rather than later. And I'm not sure I'm quite there yet because I think there's some pieces that he still has to add to his game, but I'm back on the belief that he's got a chance to be a top 5, top 10 player in the league in the not too distant future. And if he is that, maybe he is the best player on the Cavs, and that's when we're real contenders. And maybe he's already there when you factor in both sides of the ball. I don't think he's there as a number one creator, guy who runs your offense. I don't think he's at that level yet, but the potential for him to be there definitely, I feel much more strongly that that's going to be a possibility than I did a year ago. And I know we've been up and down on him, and year to year we've kind of felt like he's going to get there, he's not going to get there, he's going to get there, and right now I'm in he's going to get there mode.
Okay. Fair enough, Mike. All right.
That was fun.
That was fun. Got any Masters picks? You gonna pick anyone for the Masters this week, Mike? Got any
Zalatoris. Give me Zalatoris.
You're taking Zalatoris?
Yeah, I had some Zalatoris a year ago, and I got some cream and got it taken care of. But who knows? It might come back during the Masters.
I'm taking the chef man.
Okay, there you go.
I mean, that's really going out on a limb there. The number one player in the world, really going out on a limb.
Was he the guy that got busted by the police last year?
Yeah.
All right. Well, just steer clear of the barricades and drive safely into the Masters, Scotty Scheffler, and everything will be all right.
Any early baseball reactions, Mike? Have you watched a minute of baseball, or do you not even have access to the Indians?
I don't know if I have access. I have no idea. I do know that it was the home opener today.
You know they won
because I did. It was a walk-off, I guess.
A walk-off walk, baby. 1-0 was the final score.
But I had no idea. You could have told me that the Indians' record was 10-0, or you could have told me that it was 0-10 heading into today, and I would have had
4-6, buddy.
I would have known equally. Any of it would have made sense to me. So, baseball not on my radar, other than the torpedo bat. So that's the only baseball news I've consumed in the first however many weeks of the season.
Torpedo bat, yeah.
Torpedo bat. So
there you go.
That's
At least you know something. You know something.
I know something. It's all my knowledge is very limited at this point, but that's what I got. So anyway, that was a fun exercise. I think we'll have to remember that for next season around this time.
It'll be a little bit shirred up next year.
I'm gonna take my sheet and put it into my Hoopheads pod file.
Yeah, I don't want you to know. I with all this other prep work, I didn't even do the NBA totals, so I will save the embarrassment of sharing the totals. I'm
sure I'm still losing. I feel confident that I'm still down. I don't think I've made a late season playoff push.
So I guess here's my next statement, Mike. I guess we have to kind of decide how we're going to handle it, because playing games are next week on Tuesday. So I'm thinking we need to do a Monday night pod next week, Mike.
I have to see when. Trying to think, because my wife and daughter are flying out to Costa Rica on, I forget when they're leaving. They're not. I think they're leaving on early Monday or early Tuesday morning, I believe. So we'll see how it goes. Maybe they're going to go to bed early, and that'll make it easy for me to do that. Or maybe I'm going to have to get up at 3 a.m, and that may not make me want to stay up till 1 a.m. to edit and produce an episode. So we'll just leave it open-ended at this point.
If that was the case, then what we could theoretically do is record Sunday night, because there's going to be no news on Monday, and everything's settled up on Sunday. So we could theoretically record Sunday night too. So
that could be good, and we could maybe do a shortened version as well. So maybe
it would just literally be playing tournament, and then after the Monday and Wednesday games, we talk about, maybe we do one like Sunday, Wednesday next week. And
that sounds like a plan. We can figure it out.
Yeah. So
we will keep everyone out there apprised of the schedule as we go along, and figure out in the playoffs. Sometimes we move things around as necessary when we're talking about.
When the Cavs are in the finals, it's going to be really hard for us to podcast. I'll be in Disney World, so I'm just going to have to. You're going to have to
get in the car and Riverside on your phone, baby. That's what's going to have to be.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. All right. Well, anyway, thanks for checking out tonight's NBA episode. It was a lot of fun, at least for Jason and I. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And to everyone out there, thanks for listening. And we will catch you on our next episode. Thanks.
All right.
Good work. How long do we go?
An hour and 13 minutes, Mike.
It wasn't terrible. That was actually fun. That was one of my favorite gimmicks by far, because I feel like it was a legitimate gimmick. We got to